Hello everyone, how we doing? My name is Brace Harris.
And I'm Victoria Fenton.
And we are
Unveil.
Welcome.
Welcome.
How's everybody doing out there? Do a check-in.
Yes. Self-check.
Body scan.
Yes.
Scan it out.
Yes.
Check in with the heart. Feel your toes now. Feel your feet.
We should do this.
Feel your... Ooh, do you want to do
Go
a
on,
grounding?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we're going to do a little bit of grounding. Impromptu grounding via Brace Harris. So we're going to take a moment. Wherever you are, if you're lying down on the bed, you're in your car, sitting on a chair, on the floor, wherever you find yourself. Just check in with the points of contact. The weight of your arms and feet. The bed against your back, or the seat, the chair. Just checking in. Noticing your senses. What do you hear? What do you smell? Maybe even taste. Now I want you to put your attention on your breath. Just observing. How is each breath different from the last? Are they shallow or deep? Nothing to shift, nothing to change. Just notice. Good. And just real quickly, we're going to do a body scan, starting at the top of the head. And remember, we're just observing. We're not looking to shift or change, just observe. It's just an intake. Starting at the top of the head, scanning down to the forehead, moving past the eyes and the nose, to the jaw, noticing where there's tension. Are you clenching? Are you relaxed? Into the neck and throat. To the upper shoulders, moving into the chest, to the diaphragm, stomach area, to the pelvic area. Just noticing. Past your sit bones and in to the top of your legs. Moving down into the knees. To the calves. The lower leg, into your ankles, your feet, that's right. Good. Good. And now, just checking in with the breath once more. And taking just those moments. Has anything shifted? And again, just noticing. Whatever's there is perfect. just moving back into the room. Feeling those points of contact again. The weight of the hands, feet. Just moving back into the space. Aware of our senses now. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and just pause just for a moment. Pause in that time that you have taken for yourself. And just taking stock of everything that you observed. And now, with that information, you can, well, actually that information can help you assess where you may be holding energy, tension, and you can move into those spaces and work those areas in whatever way that means for you. Whether it be you go get a massage, or you, if there's energy there, you get to talk that out with your coach or partner or friend in whatever way that means for you, and let that energy move. Check in with it. See, does it have any messages for you? Because it always does.
Mm-hmm.
If you can find it and it's there and it's trying to talk to you, and I use talk to you with quotes around it because, you know, if there's pain or tension, or, I mean, it's telling you something, whether that just be physical alone, which I don't necessarily think it is. It always is connected to something beyond, because the body is very much an indication of what's going on in your inner world. So yeah, so thank you for doing that with me, letting me guide you through that really quickly. And
thank you, Brace.
yes, that was fun. That was a fun little impromptu. I was like, ooh.
I know. And this is what I love about this, because like we get to go anywhere we want to, and off-piste and on-piste and all the things.
That's the best part about having a podcast. Like we have an agenda. Well, I say that. we have a list of things that we want to hit and talk about, but there's no map that we have to follow, which is great.
Yeah, and just to say that now, as opposed to leaving it to the end of the podcast, we really don't. We really are interested in your views, your thoughts, your, you know, what topics would you like to hear? Where would you like to go with us and Unveil? And we are open to hearing podcast topic suggestions. Just email us, podcast@unveilenterprises.com, and we're really interested in understanding where people feel they need more information, or just us to walk them through stuff. So we're totally down for that.
Yes.
Plus, like, there's the real risk that we may run out of ideas, but like, you know, not for a while. Just being honest, like, because we're in this for the long haul. So,
yes. I love it.
How are you doing, Bryce?
I'm really good.
Yeah. Tell us more.
Very good. Very calm. The way I'm moving through my life now compared to who I was a few days before is very different. Just to give you guys kind of an insight, a small insight into, I was able to do some work with Miss Victoria Fenton here, and work on my own, and she supported me so much in that, and I had my own breakthrough, which has shifted my life in the best way, and everything feels different. It feels very, very different. And if you've had a breakthrough in your life, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you have not, which is okay, know that those experiences are very real, and they are available to you, but it takes you stepping up and committing to yourself and doing the work. So I'm feeling, to answer your question, I am feeling very good. I continue to use the word very clean. Everything that I do is very clean. There's nothing attached or a little kind of unseen by myself, unseen agenda that's going on to make me feel safe. Am I explaining this? Okay, beautiful. Everything is very clean. It's a wonderful feeling. Wonderful feeling. So yes, how are you doing?
Good. Yeah. So let's orient people. We have now this week. Yesterday. Did we do it yesterday? It was only yesterday. Launched the Unveil Enterprises website. UnveilEnterprises.com is now live and is. We are so proud of it.
Very proud of it. And our web designer also is Victoria Fenton. Knocked this puppy out in record time, and it's gorgeous and beautiful. And I just want to acknowledge you for all the hard work that you've put in. It's beautiful. Like somebody was like, "Brace, can you design a website?" And I'm like, "Well, I can draw you a picture of the Ninja Turtle, and that's about it."
And I've seen his Ninja Turtle, and you'd be hard pushed to know it was a Ninja Turtle.
You know what? It's good. I mean, it's good. It really hasn't changed since I was a kid.
Which tells you everything you need to know.
But it's good. But it's beautiful, and there's a lot of great information about some of the services that we offer, and our philosophies about what we're doing and coaching and what we are building. And it's really good to have that up, to be able to give back and let people a little bit further into our world.
Sure.
So there you go.
Yes, and so I'm good because that's up, that's out.
Yes.
And I almost put an Instagram thing on this morning and then didn't, but joking, because our ultimate timeline for that was March 2022. Then Victoria just went, "I think I might need to apply for a visa, Brace," and he was like, "Okay." And Brace's comment of, "This is all moving way faster than I'm comfortable with," was a few weeks ago, and then now here we are, and we're out and we're launched, and I have an attorney who's working very hard on visas.
Yes, he is.
And I too went through some stuff this week that Brace expertly held space for and supported, and allowed me to not be the CEO of Unveil Enterprises for an hour and just be Victoria, who had stuff on her heart that didn't need to be there and didn't need to stay there anymore. And so that was a very nice release for me this week.
Yeah, you did amazing work, and it was not an easy journey, you guys. It was. Well, not an easy journey for her, but that's what it takes. If you want to come out on the other side of everything that you feel like you're struggling with, you've got to get in the goo. You gotta go through the goo, and seriously, on the other side, wow,
it's the crispy bits.
Yep. Freedom. Yeah, it's
and to be clear, we did some empty chair work, which we'll talk about at some point on the podcast, and it was really impactful. And it actually just goes to show as well, I love that we're in person, because the energy of just this week, we've both been in spaces where just having the other person walk over and give them a hug was medicine. It was absolutely magic, and that it really makes me realise the impact of the last 18 months, getting on for 2 years now, of the whole pandemic, and how that just in and of itself, with the isolation that it causes, has been massively damaging for people, and just not having that in-person huggy contact, it takes its toll. So
it was a heavy price. A heavy price. But today,
and sort of inspired by our cleanness and our work in the last week, but also a little bit leading on from our Masculine and Feminine Dynamics podcast, which we will have launched last week. And you'll notice, by the way, guys, we are not giving out numbers anymore, because we are completely out of order and recording all left, right and centre, and it will be coming out in the right order. The number will be in your podcast app of choice, and yet we have no idea what number this actually is. Nevertheless, it's following on from our Masculine and Feminine Dynamics podcast.
Yes.
What are we talking about, Bruce?
We are talking about nonviolent communication today.
And we're going to talk about communication in general, but non-violent communication is kind of a thing in the coaching space, in the conscious coupling world, to actually ensure people don't just get triggered all the time.
Yep.
So let's start by defining what non-violent communication kind of is and what it's designed for.
Yes. So nonviolent communication, and the word violent is something that I got hung up on initially when I was first learning about it. It was like nonviolent. It's like, it's not like I go up and punch people. It's like, that's not what it's talking about. It's like taking the energy, the aggression out of how we speak to people when we have stuff come up and we need them to, I don't know necessarily step up for us, but just step into what needs to transition in order for everyone to win in any scenario in life, whether that be in relationships or work, or, you know, I'm sure if you're in HR, like nonviolent communication is something that you are an expert in. So check in with your HR person. They'll probably know exactly what you're going to be talking about.
Yes, because it's all about communicating without charge. So actually what we were just saying about being clean and saying what is necessary to be said without having that emotional frequency of antagonism or trigger or attack within the words. And that's where the violence comes from, because we can be very sloppy with our language. We can be very kind of accusatory without meaning to be. And sometimes these phrases that are just received wisdom and kind of well-known things actually have those slight barbs in them of like actual about to wound. And you can call it passive aggressive, you can call it just like meanness, but actually sometimes in saying what you really want to say and is on your heart, you slip up and you say stuff that's a step beyond. And we're not talking about here those kind of arguments that we've all had where you know that person's weak spot and you go, I'm just going to press on that button because I know it's the one that's going to actually make them realise. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a level beyond where that would even come up. We're talking about people who are trying to have a communication that is communicating essentially a need that is there, that has brought up something inside that individual that needs to be communicated without it leading to World War III.
Yes. So an example of that. Well, you know what? First, let's give an example of violent communication.
Right.
Or
violent communication is when you do this. You know, it makes me feel like I'm like completely disrespected and like I don't understand why you can't just do this because I've asked you to. That's a terrible way to communicate to somebody.
Because then, if she said that to me, and like person A says that to person B, and person B is like walls everything, like they just go full on defense mode.
And defense can mean fight back. Defense can mean how dare you say that to me? Or as you was exactly where I was going. Defense can mean shut down. Defense can mean walk away. And typically, if you do any one of those things, you're going to trigger the person who brought the things own stuff. So if somebody's got abandonment wounds and you say, I can't deal with this right now, and you walk away, they're suddenly left bereft. And they're never going to say anything again, or they'll try again, but they don't abandonment. It's all of this. Violent communication is when you speak in a way that triggers somebody else's wounds.
Yeah, and then they don't feel safe.
Right.
They don't feel safe to communicate. Even if they want to say something to you, they don't feel safe enough to even say that because it's going to be thrown back and it's going to throw it back in my face or blah, 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 or, they'll never understand.
Yeah, and oftentimes my clients, by the time they come to me, particularly if I'm dealing with people who've been in a long-term relationship, they're no longer at the point where they're having violent communication, quote unquote. They're at the point where they're no longer speaking to one another particularly about anything useful because they've been so beaten up by this attack process of trigger wound, run, trigger wound, attack, that they're just not bothering anymore.
Not speaking is saying something.
Yeah.
If you're not speaking, that is in my opinion, violent communication because you're using your silence as a weapon.
Yeah.
You're weaponizing it.
Well, and also it can be that, but it can also just be there is no point in having a communication at all because the experience of communication within that particular relationship has been so unfruitful that there's no point in bringing the thing to the table.
Also very true.
And this is, I think, the root of conflict in relationships. Romantic relationship, friendship relationships, all of that. It's the way we speak to each other is often not the way the other person needs to be spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to caveat this with, this can sound, when we get into like what it is and how to do it, it can sound super flippin' scripted and as if you kind of like got to hang on a second, just got to look at my crib sheet before you can actually say what you want to say. I think I do like the idea of nonviolent communication. I personally find it a bit clunky. And it's very American. Yeah. Sorry, Americans, but for all my Brits out there, you'll understand this when we get there. It's very kind of, it sounds like New Age spirituality with an American accent. You know, the story I'm telling myself about this is, because the whole point is you're trying to decrease blame, and this is the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the heart of nonviolent communication is the person who's trying to bring the topic is owning a huge element of what is coming up for them. So the way we do that can be taught in terms of tips, tricks, and like how to navigate the conversation. But ultimately, if you come from a place of owning your stuff and knowing it's within you and acknowledging that, all you're trying to do is decrease the words and the barbs in the sentence that could actually trigger something in the other person. So sometimes it's about literally crafting the conversation so you never say a word that could possibly be taken wrong. And other times it's about prefacing the entire conversation with, and I don't mind being super honest, we just had a conversation which, if we were any other people, could have gone into being conflicty.
Yes.
And you didn't use a nonviolent communication sentence, but you prefaced it with, I know this is about me. I need you to know that this is absolutely nothing to do with you. What's coming up in me is, and then listed the things. So I'm immediately not on the defensive. And that's the whole thing with violent communication. It's like you say, even doing that to begin a conversation, wow, you just literally triggered somebody, and good luck having any useful conversation after you started a conversation with,
like,
not again.
Why do I even have to have this conversation with you?
Right. And it's, so there's a lot of, so I do want to get into the nitty gritty and do all the kind of like the 4 elements of this, because it's relevant, and it's, I mean, the thing to say is that nonviolent communication has been massively taken out of where it started, and it's gone into this, like, the one that I used earlier, the story I'm making up about this in my head is and it's like, because now that's been used so often that it almost is passive aggressive in and of itself, because people hear it and it's like, they were about to nonviolent communication. So like, we'll take you through the clunky elements of it, but really the essence of this is, where is this you? Where is this your responsibility? Whatever you're bringing, where is it in you? And that's what you take to the other person, because usually these conversations are happening between friends, family members, or partners, romantic partners. And like, the whole point of this is that some hurt has happened somewhere. And if you approach it with, why am I having this conversation again? You're instantly in blame and accusation and all of the kind of attacking outward energy. But if you approach it with what is essentially, this has come up in me again and I need to raise it, it's an entirely different frequency of energy that comes to the conversation.
It's inside first, guys.
Yeah.
Look inside first. Not out there blaming or whatever you think about the other person. Look inside and see what you need first.
Because the ultimate thing is, you're feeling something.
Yeah.
Therefore, yes, it might have been an external action, but the thing that it triggered was in you.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking to find.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. So, the key element, and I'm going to mix this up in order because the sentence order is different to where the importance is. So there's 2 really key areas in nonviolent communication. The one is the feeling that has been triggered, and getting those feeling words right is really important, and we'll go into that. And the second element is how you call out what has triggered those feelings. Because again, it's really important the word choice that you use for how you call out those actions. So let's use one example for this entire podcast, and we're going to use the same thing. And essentially, I'm going to envisage that a man in the partnership never puts his dishes away after a meal. Like, takes them to the kitchen but doesn't put them in the dishwasher. Never, like, puts things in the dishwasher. And the wife, it really upsets her for many reasons. Probably not the actual not putting the plates in the dishwasher thing, but probably more for the fact that she's asked him a million times and he still hasn't done it.
Yeah.
And that's the situation. So the key difference here between, let's take the observation of the situation. So give me an example of how she could observe it in a terrible way.
So he doesn't put his plates in the dishwasher because he doesn't love me. Or at the end of the day, you may not think he doesn't love me, but at the core of it, that's probably the wounding that you're working around that you experienced when you were little, and that is coming up in this small situation. He's not putting them in the dishwasher because he doesn't care enough. He's not putting them in the dishwasher because he expects that is my role, and my role in this.
And these are all the feelings underneath it, which is great. So we can start here. It's fine. I was talking about the actual not putting the dishes in the dishwasher.
I messed that up.
No, it's fine. No, it's really fine. And actually, guys, like sneaky, like it's on the board in the opposite direction. So that's not brace. Like
where am I?
Yeah, we're on evaluations and judgments instead of feelings and non-feelings. Like we do have a whiteboard. This is planned, guys. Like.
Is it?
Yeah. So the whole thing about the not putting his plates in the dishwasher, like. This woman in this situation could walk in and go, oh my God, you absolutely never do anything around the house.
Okay.
Which is not true. The fact is that he hasn't put his plates in the dishwasher that night. And men are great at this. Like, you never take the washing in, or you never take the rubbish out. It's like, well, I did it 3 Tuesdays ago when it was bin day that time when you weren't here. It's like, right, you're all just having an argument about the never word, because that's a judgment of the behaviour. It's an absolute addition on top of what's actually happened. So in the start of this sentence, you have to say, when X happens, I feel Y. This is the essence that we're going for. So in this situation, the woman, the wife, is going, when X happens. Now, if she does, when you absolutely never do anything around the house, I feel, and then we'll get onto the feeling words in a second, you're instantly on a non-starter, because the man is going, well, hang on a second, I fixed the printer, I changed that light bulb, I put that picture up. So the evaluation at the beginning has to be accurate. Does that make sense, Bryce?
Yes.
So the evaluation has to be...
based in facts.
Exactly. A clean, again, we're going to use that word a lot, a clean observation of the fact of what actually happened. So I'd say this conversation is happening the next day. When you didn't put your plates in the dishwasher last night.
Huge.
Simple observation of fact.
Huge, because you can't deny that. There's nothing else connected to it. There's no past events connected to it. Like, the only thing that is present is exactly what happened.
Yeah. And the key with this is when you make a judgment rather than an evaluation, you attribute motivation to the other person's actions. I was actually reading some writing that somebody had sent me, and it's interesting because they sent it to me because I'm writing a memoir at the moment, and they're also writing a memoir at the moment. And my first draft was exactly the same as this person's, because in writing it, I'm attributing motivation and meaning to everything that ever happened to me, as if I'm in the other person. And it's like, you never do anything around the house because you don't love me. It's exactly where you were. And this is this kind of like, you're attributing way more to a simple act of not putting plates in the dishwasher. And at that point, you're assuming that you are inside the other person's head, and nobody is, ever.
Nope. Everything that you're thinking is all about you.
Yes.
It's all about you. So you get the opportunity to step up and take that responsibility for yourself and your own feelings and the way that you are observing the world.
Yeah. And so, take this wife in this situation.
Yeah.
We know it's about the 14 million times he's never put his plates in the dishwasher.
That's right.
But if she approaches the situation with that sentence, she's on a non-starter. So, the moment it's triggered, when you didn't put your plates in the dishwasher last night, that's the start point, the observation. Not an assessment, not a judgment, just a factual observation of the events. Then we get into the core of what I think nonviolent communication needs to be and is often mistaken, and it's the feelings.
Yes.
So when you didn't put your plates in the dishwasher last night, I felt. Now, there are a million feeling words, but there are also a million words we think are feeling words that are actually not feelings. They are accusations again. So you can go into, when you didn't put the dishes in the dishwasher, I felt disrespected, attacked, violated,
mistreated, abandoned.
Yeah. And all of you are thinking, oh yeah, these are feeling words. These are so not feeling words. These all have an attribution of agency in the other person. So in essence, it's like there is a motivation there, because if I say to you, I feel abandoned by you,
that means I did something.
Yeah, abandonment is done to somebody. Whereas I feel alone is a feeling that is
like,
solely about me.
Yeah.
So when you leave me without saying goodbye in the morning, I feel alone, is a really useful phrase for a woman to say to the husband that goes off to work in the morning, or vice versa. It's very gender normative, I apologise. But it's that kind of, the feeling is the aloneness, the feeling is the emptiness, the feeling is the sadness. The feeling isn't abandoned, rejected, unloved, unwanted.
Because it implies that person B intentionally did something to person A.
Yes, yeah. That's the main difference between feelings and non-feelings. Excuse me, listeners, I'm not going to edit this out because I can't be bothered. So there's...
I can build a whole website thing in a weekend, but...
Can't be bothered to edit a few
Nah, forget the edit.
Yeah, no. And plus, can't be bothered is my favourite phrase that Brace loves to use. Because apparently it's very English, which I did not realise.
I love it. It's like, I can't be bothered. Feels good. Implement that into your daily repertoire of words.
But just don't use it in non-violent communication. Sorry, love.
Yeah, don't use it in non-violent communication. It's like, I feel this way because I feel alone. No, I can't be bothered.
Well,
oh my gosh.
Why didn't you put the dishes in the dishwasher? I can't be bothered.
Why do you put the dishes in the dishwasher? I can't be bothered. Couldn't be bothered. It's like, no.
Yeah, this is a really bad example. We're not yes, don't say this, but okay.
It kind of makes it violent.
Yeah, really violent. Yeah. Well, and actually, and that will really nicely bring us on to the second part of this, because this first sentence that we're talking about, where we've got the observation and then the feeling word, is only the first half of non-violent communication. And again, this is another area where people get things wrong. They're like, when you do X, I feel Y. And then they leave a great big open space, and then the other person's going, okay, what am I supposed to do about it? So let's just whiz back to feeling words and non-feeling words and finish this bit, and then we can get on to the second part of the sentence. So feeling words are all of the ones which imply a solo emotion. Give us the examples, my dear.
Solo emotion?
Yeah, these feeling words.
Feelings associated with unmet needs. If you're angry about something, you can say, I feel angry. You can say, I feel hate.
Well, this is where it gets American. The correct English people is hatred.
I'm so sorry.
I know, my mother's just a grammar pedant, so she would kill me if I left that one hanging.
Excellent.
But it is, I feel angry, I feel...
afraid,
upset.
Anxious, edgy, I feel agony, I feel anguish, I feel tired.
Confused.
Yes. I feel frightened, concerned.
Surprised.
Conflicted, bewildered.
But and notice we haven't said attacked, abandoned, rejected, unloved, and also I would not say I feel like my needs are not being met, because again that implies that somebody else is failing in the situation.
Yes, and it implies somebody's taking action. It's almost it's like verbs. It's like, don't use verbs.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's 100% all the way through.
Verbs about other people. So everything that we say that's a non-feeling word essentially is attributing action from another person.
Yeah.
It has to be done to you rather than emanate from within you.
Got it.
So, okay, we've got the first part of this sentence, this whole observation, feeling. So when you do X, I feel Y. And then we get on to the heart of the matter. And this is where I really, really, really want people to realise that the mechanics of nonviolent communication are interesting, because it's actually what we're doing with these sentences is neurologically cueing somebody to not react. And it's the whole point. It's like we're decreasing the neurological stimulus so people don't actually react. But the heart of everything, and why you would do this in the first place, is because the heart of every relational conflict is an unmet need. And usually, spoiler alert, it's not solely to do with the husband that's not putting the dishes in the dishwasher. That's a trigger as an adult for some unmet need that's been constant since you were a kid.
A kid, yeah.
So within the context of having needs, there is a whole, again, like a glossary of needs that can be met. And again, it has to be a need that can be met by another person that emanates from within you. So what are examples of some needs, Grace?
Let me see here. I have like a whole list of words here. I need acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I need affection.
Mm-hmm.
I need community
Mm-hmm.
or belonging, inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I need growth. I need flow.
Mm-hmm.
I need diversity, creativity,
Mm-hmm.
depth. I need comfort.
Mm-hmm.
I need choice.
Mm-hmm.
I need space. I need security,
Mm.
self-expression.
Mm. And these are great needs, because I think there's a whole, and what I'm probably going to try and do is create a link for you in this podcast episode to a whole list of feeling words and non-feeling words, and then a whole needs inventory, because I have those somewhere and I can upload them online and give you a link.
Yeah.
Because actually just even contemplating this changes the way you experience your own triggers. Because if you can walk through life going, oh, I feel this, what need isn't being met here? What's not being seen by me? What is underneath this feeling that's coming up?
Yeah, and just really exploring that is going to give you some big insight into some of the things that you may have been struggling with that you didn't necessarily know, because you can't know what you don't know. So you got to go in there and do a little digging, do a little research on yourself, and that will make you, and I go back to it again, more aware of what you're experiencing and potentially what exactly, it helps you define what exactly is coming up for you, and then you have the opportunity to go and look where that wasn't met and why it's such a sensitive place for you in your being, because I guarantee you that it's affecting more than just one area of your life.
And this is where a conflict that you and your partner have about not putting the dishes in the dishwasher is such an opportunity, because it's actually allowing you to see into, well, what need really isn't being met there? Where did that come from? Where am I showing up like this in the rest of my life, feeling resentful that needs aren't being met?
Yeah.
And for me, I feel that this piece is the core of it. And what I hope you're grasping as we run through this is that this isn't a quick process for you to work out your non-violent communication sentence. This is not something that's ever said in the heat of the moment. That's why I said the next day, the wife says, when you didn't put your dishes in the dishwasher last night. Because if you go in when the dishes are there, you start with a huff and puff.
Yeah. In the heat of the moment.
Sorry, Brace is in a singing mood at the moment.
Yeah.
You just have to put up with it. It's just one of the things that
that I do.
that you know. But yeah, it in that like space where the intensity is there, you don't have time to go, oh, hang on a second, which part of my needs were met? Let me check my inventory checklist. Take the time. Like, recognize the trigger, catch it, move on with the evening, go watch television. Like,
know that you're going to get back to it, and trust that you're going to get back to it, and it's going to get handled. Don't let it spill over into the rest of the evening and onto everything that you're trying to do and enjoy.
Right, because that will only further affect the relationship.
And it just compounds.
Yeah.
Just compounds. It's like interest, compound the hell out of it. This, you don't want to compound that. No.
Right. So when you don't put the dishes in the dishwasher, I feel upset.
Mm-hmm.
And then you state the need. Because I need to know you're in this with me. Simple sentence, says a lot. Particularly women, this is just a sneaky slight manipulation thing, but like, play the damsel in distress, because actually it's part of our nature. This goes back to the masculine and feminine dynamics thing. It's like, a lot of women in this world at this moment in time have been brought up to believe they can be everything and anything, which means they think they have to be everything and do everything. Actually, it's very healthy for us to need things from the masculine, because our need allows the masculine to give and protect, and that goes right back to giving and receiving. So as a woman, to say, I really need you to do this, or because I have the need to know that you're in this, you're running this house with me, because I need you to do the thing so that I can feel safe, is essentially what's underneath all of this.
Yeah. And that may sound dramatic to some of you, but what's more dramatic? Holding on to that and let it build up and just everything else, or just handling it?
And it's so
in
funny,
the
actually.
best way.
And I'm just, because we've actually, people on YouTube will recognise that we've shifted angles. So I've kind of got a different view. And this is just reminding me of what happened. So Brace and I are in my Airbnb to record these podcasts. And we took the pictures down there on the wall to take a photo one day. And one of the hooks didn't go back in. And I was like, need some polyfiller, that you guys don't call it polyfiller here, but you call it like putty or something, whatever. And Brace was like, something, and he said, someone was like, yeah, right, whatever, stuffed up in holes. And so you went to Home Depot and bought some for me, and I just assumed you'd had some at home, and you came in with it. I was like, oh my god, why did you do that? You didn't need to do that. Like, oh goodness. And then I filled the hole, and then sometime later I was like, I actually don't have a hammer or a picture hook to put this back up. So you brought the hammer and the picture hook. And then I was like, are you not going to put it in for me? Are you not going to do the job for me? And you were like, oh, well, you're just like, so you do everything. I just didn't know whether you were going to let me do that for you. And it's just, this is a perfect example of how we have shifted in the time that we've known one another. Where like the first was like, oh my god, you didn't need to do that, Brace. You didn't need to do the lovely thing and go to Home Depot and buy me some bloody wall filler. And the second one was like, put the picture up and do the job.
And I was like, oh, I'm okay.
And then he did.
Sure.
And he even put it up straight, guys. It's a miracle.
You just tell me what I need to do.
Right. But it's that, and that essence, and particularly with men, when the woman goes, I really need you to do X, Y, Z, it makes the man feel so safe because it's so known. And guys, women are so confusing to men. We are complicated, and we have so many things that go on in our world of soup of emotions, that when we break it down and make it super clear and say, this is what I need. And I imagine this conversation between this fictional man and woman has happened a million times, where the wife's just gone from a place of irritation and nagging and gone, would you please just put your fucking dishes in the dishwasher? He's never going to step up to that. But if the wife says, because I really need to feel like we're in this together, and I know it's a really small thing, but somewhere in you putting the dishes in the dishwasher, I just feel loved. Oh my God, those dishes are going to be in the dishwasher every single night from that moment on. Because
the guy gets to step up and be
what
like, this is all I have to do to show her that I love her? Friggin' A, I'm on this like white on rice. Let's do it.
But what man...
Give me more dishes.
What man wouldn't want to step up to make a woman feel loved?
The man that she's definitely not supposed to be with.
Right, true.
That's the one.
Right, so we're assuming, and this is a good test of your relationship, say statements which mean, I need to feel loved, and then if he doesn't step up, take it back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we're giving a lot of ammunition to a lot of people. And this goes for men as well. You get to have these same nonviolent communication conversations with your partner as well.
Yes.
And
it can be exactly vice versa. Like it can the same situation. Because the whole point of the end of nonviolent communication is you make a request. I need you to put the dishes in the dishwasher because it helps me to feel really loved and safe. The answer can always be no, guys.
And this is key.
And if the man in this situation says, that's ridiculous, okay, that's not a great response. But if the man then chooses to non-violent communication he can say, I understand where you're coming from, and I love that you brought this to me. The reason I haven't done this is because when you have nagged me about this in the past, see the statement of fact, because she will have nagged, and it's not an accusatory statement, it's a statement of fact, I have felt so hurt. Because what I need is to feel safe in my own home. And so we're now absolutely not talking about dishes in the dishwasher. No. We're having a deep conversation about where each other is disrespecting, and I'm going to use that word as an observation from my perspective, not that they would say it to one another, the other's needs. Because oftentimes the arguments that you're going to have are about really benign things. Dishes in the dishwasher. Is the bed made? Do you take the rubbish out?
Put the cap on the toothpaste.
Right. Yes.
I don't know, it just came out.
I was just wondering whether that was
she just paused and looked at me like, what?
No, I was just thinking, I wonder if that's dredged up from personal life.
Oh, no. My wife, she is a toothpaste cap putter on.
Good. And Brace is a dishwasher putter away. So like, this is a healthy relationship.
Yeah, because my wife,
oh,
that's so much.
Oh.
I love you, babe.
Yeah, we do love you, and I'm sorry. I did promise her that we would talk about her less, but, you know, I failed.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, babe.
I lied. you.
Because I have to talk about you all the time. Anyway, okay, so back to nonviolent communication.
Yes, so you can actually start having really deep conversations because those triggers that you feel, like when that person does that thing that really upsets me, why? Go into your why, bring that to the other person, give them the opportunity to change. But if they come back at you with oh, I hear what you're saying and I see what you mean, but this is my side of this story, it just changes the depth of your relationship.
Yeah, because a lot of us approach life in general with this hero-villain kind of storyline. I am right and that person is wrong, and I am justified in the way that I feel and they are not. But you're only assuming that, really what you're doing is just assuming. Mm-hmm. You're assuming that you're right and you're assuming that they're wrong. And this gives you an opportunity to see yourself maybe as the villain in this storyline. Mm-hmm. And you've just been holding on to this, haven't said anything in a positive way, and you never even knew the other side of the story. Mm-hmm. It's like, could be, well, babe, the reason I haven't put the dishes in the dishwasher because I'm, truth be told, I'm absolutely terrified of dishwashers.
Well, no.
And it's like, babe, no, really? I've been thinking you don't love me this whole time.
But there's a secret thing about dishwashers. So have you noticed?
Well,
and this is really big mistake about dishwashers. But there are people who can load dishwashers and there are people who really can't. So if this has come from the fact that the husband tried when they were first together to load the dishwasher, and she was always critical, even if she never said it out loud, but always would just rearrange it so more plates went in and the cutlery was up the way that she wanted it, and
he'll just stop doing it.
He'll just stop doing it because subtly that is a criticism. Even if she never said anything about the dishwasher, he's got the impression that he can't do it right.
And then they didn't talk about it, and so it's been like this, and she's been thinking one thing and he's been thinking the other thing, and no one's communicating.
And then all she's done is nag him about it, and he's gone, oh my god, I'd love to put the dishes in the dishwasher, but I'm going to put that plate in the wrong way around, and I'm going to do this thing. And we're being a bit facetious.
Right.
But
you see, how many of you are literally having
so many
different, dishwasher conversations, or so many different scenarios where you're like, oh my god.
Right.
This happens so many times in different areas. And we all do it. We all do it. We've all done it.
And I think that this brings me on to what I really want to say. And this is not on the whiteboard brace, so I'm going off piece. I apologise. But this is what I really want to say about having effective relationships. Setting the ground rules for communication, super important. So actually not like detailing the whole kind of this, that, and the other, and the 4 stages of having a sentence that means that you have communicated non-violently.
Yeah.
But actually knowing, particularly if you know deep stuff about one another, knowing where the hard line is in an argument. So knowing that even if you get into heat, there are certain things that neither of you can say about one another. Like, you're going to turn into your father, or
right, no, that's not fair.
All of these things. And the problem with communication is that if one person or both people feel like if they just get into heat, somebody's going to leverage the kneecap chopping off moment of sentence that's going to be so hurtful that they don't feel safe, they're never going to walk towards communication and conversation. So actually having a conversation with your partner where you understand how you want to talk about things and where your hard lines are, and never feeling like you can't say what you feel or need because suddenly they're going to push the big red button that you said don't touch. That helps people feel a lot safer. And all of this is about the safety to bring stuff up.
Let's keep it safe, guys. Keep it safe.
Well, this is exactly it. So everything about communication is it safe to bring this up? And we're never thinking about, is it safe to bring this up in this situation? We're thinking, was this safe the last time I brought something big to the table? Not, is this person the person that I love to death and would never say boo to a goose? No, it's, am I safe in having this feeling? Am I safe in feeling this? And all we're trying to do is, we're apes, we're just trying to get through this neocortex thing that we have. Like, oh gosh, we can have language and say things that can hurt people. Trying to work out a way to do it in a way that doesn't put nuclear bombs into the situation.
Yep. That's why we wanted to have this conversation. Because it's a huge need for just people in general, in the way that we move through. And yeah, it may feel clunky and a little bit scripted, but it gets the job done in an efficient way, and it gives you tools and skills, and all of a sudden, before you even know it, you're in these deep, meaningful, like life-changing conversations that you get to do with your partner or your friend or your colleague or whatever, and everybody's on the same page, and everybody at the end of the day feels safe and heard and listened to.
And I feel that the way that you can start to move through life when you know you can bring stuff to the table is completely different, because you suddenly feel like all those moments where your needs weren't met as a child, you don't have to go through every single one of them like a library of like, oh, what need wasn't met, oh, what need wasn't met. Sometimes it's just repatterning the nervous system around whether your needs will be met or not. So a lot of what we do in coaching is actually look at childhood trauma, look at historic trauma to change the future experience. And a lot of what some coaches do is go into every single major impactful moment and think, oh, we need to completely like reevaluate this. And there's huge merit in some of those. But what I like to also do is completely bear in mind what the end goal is. Yes, the end goal is sometimes understanding those moments in the past, and there are big moments for where that is super useful, and then general gists where that's super useful. But actually, what's the goal is repatterning the nervous system response in the future and in the now. And sometimes that involves reflection, but oftentimes it involves changing the moments. So actually experiencing different safeties doesn't mean you have to go back and like, oh, I wasn't safe in that moment, so that's why X felt like Y. It's actually, oh, my nervous system's gone and done the same thing that it did, and the world didn't fall apart, the other shoe didn't drop.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a stretching that happens and relief, and it's like, oh, same thing doesn't happen when I do. Yeah, exactly.
And so that, for me, is the gift that we as partners can give to people when we accept their non-violent communication. And if you're trying this with your partner, educate them on what you're trying to do, because if you suddenly leverage this really clunky 4-part sentence,
yeah, they're going to be like so confused. So it's definitely a duo kind of thing.
And have a conversation about having conversations.
Well, is it always a duo kind of thing?
Depends how up for it your partner is. You can do this on your own.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Siri's joining it on the podcast. I apologise, guys. So you can do this on your own, and you can kind of try, and as long as you get this smooth and you think about it and see what happens. Oftentimes I've found with my clients that this brings up a conversation where the partner's like, what are you doing? Like, what this felt different, like what's going on? Yeah. And then it actually turns into a duo event where you have a conversation about how you want to have conversations. And that is the most important conversation.
And that's a huge need. That is a massive need.
Yeah.
This is how I need to communicate.
Yes.
Or how we need to communicate, at least for the time being, when stuff is charged.
And it can be.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be every conversation. That's not what we're saying. It's like if you're getting triggered and you need to express yourself, and expressing yourself is going to help you in your journey about figuring out what's going on with you and why you're feeling certain ways about whatever this relationship is. This is a good tool to use until you get to a really comfortable, safe space with the other person in that dynamic, and you can take it from there. This is just a tool.
Yeah. And I really, really, really want to end by bringing it back to yes, this is a duo thing, but this is an entirely inside job, because the major part of nonviolent communication is the identification of the feeling, solo mission, solo feeling, and the need, which is all about you. It's you. And so, just as a word to the wise, when we have communications, oftentimes you get people who are, there's phrases for these, but I'll just explain it. There's people who want to stick in and talk it out till it's done, and there are people who really need to escape to actually get space, to reflect, to come back. And if you don't know which one of those you are, and you don't know which one of those your partner is, you are going to screw up conversations every time. Because I'm a stick in it. I really need to have the end of the conversation. Don't like going to bed on an argument, all of those kinds of things. But if I'm in a relationship with someone who needs to walk away, and they just do that, I also have abandonment wounding. So if they walk away, even if it's for 2 minutes to go to the loo just to get a break or to like have a glass of water, and I've been in charged conversation, I feel abandoned. There ain't no way that person's coming back to the conversation and I'm in at all the right space to speak about it. So if you know you've got an abandonment pattern and you know your partner's somebody who needs space, you know that about each other, and the one who needs space needs to be educated to give the partner a by when, I need to take a minute, I love you, I need to take my breathing space, I'm going for a walk, I will be back by this time, or I will be back in half an hour. Because at that point, you're not allowing the abandonment to be triggered in the person who has that wounding and those patterns. And this all starts with awareness, because this sounds great, but if you don't know which one you are, and you haven't said to your partner, what do you need when you get into these situations? And some people like to diffuse the situation with humour. That's massively triggering to people. Have the conversation about how you argue and how you feel when certain things happen, because suddenly you're having not just non-violent communication, but clear, clean, effective, honouring communication, and the communication which doesn't just honour your needs and what's coming from you, but honours the patterns and the triggers and the perspectives of the other person that you obviously love dearly. Otherwise you wouldn't be bothered with non-violent communication. You just annoy people and walk away.
Yep.
So, it's all about you. It's an inside job. And go to the show notes if you want to have some insights into the feeling words and the non-feeling words and the observations and the needs inventory and all that kind of stuff. And I'll do that work to get that put up.
I love it. I'm laughing at myself because I was like, yep. Because I agree with everything that you're saying. There's really nothing more for me to add.
Except to say that you do communicate like this. It's like sometimes within our dynamic, and me as well, but sometimes I think for you in particular, actually getting the nuts and bolts of the tools feels really kind of like, oh, it's a thing that I have to get right, and it's something that it feels quite hard. And yet, if you grasp the essence of this, trust me, that's enough.
And that's true. And that's usually the way I end up going. It's really, now that I'm reviewing my life, how I have done a lot of stuff, learned a lot of skills. I grasp an essence and then I throw kind of my own personal spin on it. And you don't have to do the structured sentences unless that
resonates with you.
Yeah.
And remember what I said at the beginning of this. Brace and I have just had a conversation which Brace prefaced with, I need you to know that this is absolutely not about you. This is coming up in me. And then said some things which could have been taken as hurtful, but were all about you. And I knew it wasn't about me because you told me it wasn't about me. And at that point, you're actually having clear and proper conversation. And we didn't need to use the tools and techniques, but actually when you start a conversation with this is what's coming up, you often don't go to those attacking words and those judgmental phrases.
Yeah, there's no need because we use those to defend ourselves more than anything. And they may feel like attacking words, but you're attacking because you are trying to keep yourself safe. That's how you're defending yourself. So we use violent words or violent ways of expressing those words. And our words are the only ways really that we have to directly communicate. This is the way that human beings have designed, how we communicate efficiently. I mean, language is one of the things that makes us different from the rest of the animal kingdom, is because we have this ability to pass down information from generation to generation to generation to generation through our language. And so how we use our language is very important.
And naming things has huge power. There's a whole gate in the ancient I Ching which is all about naming things. It's all about literally the power that it lends to something when you name it. And so... Can
I have an example?
Yes, well, it's the 60-second gate of the ancient I Ching if people want to look at it, or the 60-second gene key if you're in that mood. And it's actually the gate of detail. Because ultimately, as soon as you name something, we actually did this yesterday when we were outside, because as soon as you name that something's a bottle, you've given context to that entire thing. Because a bottle contains fluid. It's not glass object, although it is a glass object. Right? It's just a glass object.
It is to us because we named it, and therefore it becomes the reality.
But if you then name it a bottle, that's a different kind of glass object, because the glass object could be an ornament, it could be a...
Yeah.
So it's this power that you lend to naming things. But the key about that power of naming things is you have to assume that the language is common. And unfortunately, language is not common. Like the hilarity that we have here, where like I say a word and you're just like, what? Because it just doesn't translate, because language is not common. And so a lot of this stuff, where you're like naming needs and things like that, if you need to give your partner an explanation of the feeling, do it. Because your landscape for alone is entirely different from somebody else's landscape of alone.
But make it about you. Don't make it about them.
Right.
It's not about them at the end of the day. It's about you and what you need.
And being able to communicate that effectively. And sometimes you need to highlight the landscape of what your need is, because more harm has been done by just assuming that other people would know what you needed or know what you wanted or know what you were thinking. Say it, guys. Like, express it, ask for it. You deserve it.
Yeah. You do. You do deserve it. Thank you for saying that. People do. Give it to yourself. Give it to yourself first, and then you can give it to everybody else.
And then you can ask for it if it needs to be met by another person.
That's right. I love it. So for now, I don't know. How are we feeling?
Yeah,
no. Man, this is...
We could go on forever, but we're just going to start repeating ourselves. So if you want more questions, if you want us to do live demos of nonviolent communication, if you are the kind of person who wants to come on and talk to us about your relationship from a live coaching perspective, we are going to start offering that on the podcast. We are going to do live coaching. There'll be shorter episodes. And again, I will work out the technology, but I'm sure I'll be able to do it somehow.
We'll take care of business.
Yeah. Send us an email, podcast@unveilenterprises.com. Like us, share, subscribe,
and then check out our new website.
Yes.
www.unveilenterprises.com. But for now, my name is Brace Harris.
And I am Victoria Fenton.
And we are
Unveil.